and it's really quite hectic. So here I'm flying in this portal, and I can see the portal all around, and I can see a being in it, in this black empty space. So this is the space between reality. I shot out the end of this portal, going through this black nothingness space, and there in front of me I could see what seemed like two beings facing each other. And as I got to them, unknowing to me, it was the plumed serpent with his two heads, as seen in this image. Welcome back to the channel, fellow seekers. I'm Trevor. Today we explore the unique path to transformation through Changa, the smokable version of Ayahuasca, brought to life in the early 2000s by Julian Palmer. For about 2 years prior to 2010, I was often invited to cactus and ayahuasca ceremonies, and I refused. In my mind, I was meditating in a disciplined way, and I thought, why would I need to go through this experience just to see visions, when if you sit in meditation after all these years and see visions effortlessly, without it costing you anything, without discomfort. So after many years of being asked, I started to hear about Changa, the businessman's lunch. And what I was told was, you just take 2 puffs and you enter the spirit world. So I started to hear more and more stories about this. I agreed to this experiment to see what it would do. So the agreement was we all had to meet at a hiking spot at sunrise. So that meant one had to get up in the dark, which I wasn't accustomed to, and ready myself for the journey to get to this place in the cold, or should I say the end of winter, to start this hike. And at that point I was fairly unfit. So I took the long road and got to the place just before the sun was rising, and met everyone. We got to the top of the mountain, we had lunch, I think it was about midday, 1 o'clock. The sun was exceptionally bright, there was no shade, we were all sitting in the sun. The pipe to my lips, and he said, this is the only time I'm going to say suck very hard. So as I puffed the pipe and inhaled, I immediately had this deja vu feeling that this smell, this really strange smell, was familiar, almost like a deja vu, an echo of something from the past. And as I breathed it in, I breathed out and had inhaled again, or sucked the pipe. Breathed out, and I think I actually went for a 3rd puff. And then I sat back and I thought, okay, like everything else, this is not going to work. And immediately I felt my body vibrating, my entire being. So I pulled my shoes off, sat in the lotus posture on top of the mountain, closed my eyes, and at that moment my kundalini awoke and shot through the spinal column. But what was interesting here, immediately I found myself out of my body in a portal. So this portal, I always like to say portals are like roller coasters. So imagine you're in a roller coaster that's surrounded like a tube with these multi-colors that make up the tube. And the speed of a roller coaster is a little bit slow compared to the speed of a portal. So, and the portal loops in different directions, so you can feel that force every time you sort of move a corner or go in a circle. And it's really quite hectic. So here I'm flying in this portal, and I can see the portal all around, and I can see a being in it, in this black empty space. So this is the space between reality, the emptiness. And I shot out the end of this portal, going through this black nothingness space, and there in front of me I could see what seemed like 2 beings facing each other. And as I got to them, unknowing to me, it was the plumed serpent with his 2 heads, as seen in this image. And as I met the sovereign plumed serpent once again for the first time, so it felt, I immediately said to him, without even knowing why, I was a Mayan. And as I said that, he opened the gateway. And for the next, what it seemed like 5-10 minutes, I was flying over the Amazon. So the Amazon was below me, and I was soaring through the air like an eagle. And there was a being, a pure spirit of light that was with me, and we were both flying through this matrix. I was obviously being guided by this higher consciousness while in a state of higher consciousness. And it felt like a really long time flying over the Amazon. Eventually, in the distance, I could see this what seemed to be a temple sticking out of the treetops, and this was a Mayan step pyramid, and right at the top of it was a chamber, an initiatory chamber. In the next moment I was actually lying on the slab, and there was a being next to me giving me ayahuasca. And so this was thousands of years ago, and now I was taken to this place through the portal, blessed by the sovereign plumed serpent. And as I took this and lay back, there was one small window in this entire chamber, and as I looked out I could see the mist of the early morning, and everything was green, and the mountains around almost became an ocean. And from that moment I was transported to the future, to where we were now, up on the mountains. And I was still up in the atmosphere looking down upon the group, and my thoughts were in my mind, one pointed, and they were through the universe like an ocean. And as I looked down in the group, some of the people I hadn't known, but in that moment I knew who I would know, who I would be friends with in the future. I even saw a ceremony, an ayahuasca ceremony, that I obviously had never been to, that would still come up in the future. And things about the people in the ceremony that Spirit wanted me to know. And then as I entered my body and came around, I'm not sure how long the experience was, but it felt pretty long. And everyone was laughing, seeing my reaction, and they all looked different. And what was also interesting, when staring down from above, looking at everyone, they were surrounded with what seemed to be like a water bubble. And this was from the Palo Santo smoke that had created this bubble of protection around everyone. Obviously we used this before taking Changa, or before doing ayahuasca, or even before meditation. So after trying to process what had just happened, I asked Rob, can I have another one before we leave the mountain? And I quickly had some more Changa, lay down on a rock, and there was the Great Mother that opened the matrix, my Kundalini, going through the entire planet. The rock formations around me changed. All of a sudden my ears popped, and I was in the soundless sound of the universe. Everyone around me was talking, moving. I was sitting in the rock in this blazing sun, and I could hear absolutely nothing but the stillness within. It was absolutely incredible. And in this state of cosmic consciousness, in this state of higher consciousness, I connected with the World Mother, the Divine, and it was just an incredible moment. And it was from that day that I found a transformation beyond what I was achieving in meditation. Because ayahuasca broke all barriers and limitations to take me to the levels that I'd been trying to achieve for the last, 30, 40 years. I couldn't actually even understand or grasp the fullness of this initiation, of this blessing that I'd been through. And obviously I smoked a lot of Changa after that. I could go for maybe even 10 rounds. So one day, sitting on the balcony after having Changa, there appeared the plumed serpent in the clouds, and he was telling me, it's time to try ayahuasca and stop smoking the Changa. So it was from that day that I went through a transformation, an unbelievable one. Still meditating, still doing ayahuasca, but not taking any of the other plants. I prefer to keep things simple and have these profound experiences. And I must also mention that day on the mountain, not everyone goes through the same experience. Before we reached the top of the mountain, we took a break halfway, and I sat under a tree, and I was practicing the Kriya Yogas. So I was opening, as the Mayans say, the channels that go around the body. So I was filling them with prana. So maybe that helped when taking the Changa to take me to a state of cosmic consciousness, a state of bliss, a state of being connected and one with God. So I've had some of the most incredible journeys into the other worlds, and mostly into a state of cosmic consciousness. And every time I was taken to places that was specifically designed by the ancients to teach me something that I needed to know about my journey of where I'm going, and the bigger picture of what was coming and what was unfolding. So I'm not trying to promote Changa, but I'm certainly not going to dismiss it as a tool on the spiritual path. So I'm not suggesting that we all run out and go buy ayahuasca now, but I do suggest and recommend that those of you that are on the path, that are disciplined with your meditations and your breathing exercises, that you do give this a try. Life's very short, and this may just be the catalyst that ignites your spiritual path. into the light. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and please like and subscribe.